Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I'm still learning this system myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So let me just introduce myself briefly. What's up, guys? Dave Mate, Circle the Drink. This is the beginning of a new series called the Mate Studio. It's kind of like the Actor Studio, if you guys have ever seen that show where a series of actors are interviewed and they just talk about their lives. Well, we're just doing that with yerba mate. We're going to be talking to Materos, and Matero is a person that is involved with mate more than just a single drink, more than just a single plant, but more of a lifestyle. So today we have Jason King. So if Jason, you want to kind of just tell us about yourself, and we'll just go into this.
Hello, everyone. As he says, I'm Jason, and I've been drinking yerba mate for about few years now, and I've fallen in love with it, and so I drink it on a daily basis. I use it to read, to study, to give me boost in the morning. I like to drink it before I give lectures to my class. Or in fact, actually, since it's online, they don't really see my face. I even drink it while I give lectures. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, originally, I started drinking it because I thought Che looked really cool when he was drinking it. And, so when I bought myself a set, I think I kept burning the herb, and it came out pretty bitter. And so I put it up on the shelf for a while and didn't touch it. And then one morning, I asked my son, so, hey, what should I have, coffee or yerba mate? And he's like, you got to have the yerba mate. It just sits there, Dad. So that time, I didn't heat the water up above 150, and I soaked the herb pretty good. And then as soon as I started drinking, that's when I really felt the effect. I mean, it was like such a mental clarity. The clouds parted, the light shone down on me. And I remember that morning, I wrote a love poem for mate. It was, I don't even think I have it still. It was so long ago. And then ever since then, we've been pretty solid.
Wow. But tell us about how were you first acquainted with mate? How did you hear about it?
Well, in undergraduate school, I went to the bookstore and I bought a bunch of these books they had on Che, mostly his own diaries, his guerrilla warfare manual. And so I just went to work and started reading them. And then I saw some pictures of him and some of the books I got. He was drinking from something. I didn't know what it was, and it looked so cool. And I was like, what is this, And in those early books I read, nothing, I didn't remember anything of it saying anything about mate except for maybe the motorcycle diaries, but I didn't connect the two. And it wasn't until later till I typed into Google, what is Che Guevara drinking? And then it popped up and I was like, okay, that's awesome. Now I got to try it. I got to go and try to get a set. So I first started drinking some Guayaquil tea bag. And I was able to find some at a store we have here called Trader Joe's, and picked them up and started drinking that. And it was good, but I wanted it to go further. So that's when I got the set, but then I kept doing it wrong and didn't like it till that one time I hit it right. And then I felt the full effect, and I never turned back. Sure.
That's beautiful. And it's funny that you say that, because I try to explain this to people, and maybe you could elucidate upon it, where I've met, I don't know how many people have written me stories or people I've bumped into over the years, where they said initially they didn't like mate. It was too bitter. It was just like, it was kind of off-putting for them. And I would always tell them, I would say, listen, just keep on drinking it, because your body's going to figure it out. And then all of a sudden you're going to love it. And I've never heard people really quantify this, or scientists even talk about it. This is kind of unknown territory in the scientific community, as far as I know. But it seems to me that mate kind of works on your system to the point where, in some cases, there seems to be like a threshold where all of a sudden your body just gets it. And then it's like, I want to drink it all day long. Is that sort of what you experienced?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, it's like, as I said, I just think I was preparing it, because I mean, I had just a basic set. I can't remember where I got it from. It was just some basic set off Amazon, and it was
Yeah.
just a small black with a silver lining of a calabash gourd and a generic, you know, uh, coil bombisha, and
Yep.
I don't know, those first several tries I just was getting it wrong, and it was because of lack of experience in preparation
Mm-hmm.
that drove me away from it. So I had this period in which I didn't even attempt to do it till that morning, and then by hitting it just right, I was able to unlock the full effect
Mm.
of the mate, and that's when, you know, it was almost like my consciousness transcended, and,
Yeah.
and, and cleared my mind, cleared, and I was like, forget the coffee, completely. And so it took me a little while to move away from coffee, simply because if I didn't wake up early enough, I didn't have time to enjoy it. So I just did coffee, a quick caffeine fix, ran to school, got that done. But then I try to enjoy it in the evening. And then, other than that, I just, after maybe a few weeks, I just, cut coffee out completely. And
Yeah.
although I might have it once a month, it rather just makes me sick to my stomach. I don't know if it's just the caffeine content or what. I just really don't enjoy it anymore. And so with the mate, sorry about that. With the mate, um, I can drink it morning and evening. I still sleep pretty well at night. It really helps me get through the day. I don't have any crashes.
Mm-hmm.
Helps me when I read. At least clears my mind to where I can really focus and read. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. Is just how good I feel. Plus, I
Right.
think it. I think it also operates as like a natural antidepressant, because of the mood boosting factors. I mean, it could be, I don't know what they call it, but whatever that chemical is in chocolate that gives you euphoric flavor.
Theobromine.
That's right, theobromine.
Yeah.
And I think that really just at least boosts my mood.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that at this point you consume mate for specific reasons such as mental clarity, reading comprehension, things like that, or is it more of a lifestyle situation for you with mate, or maybe a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, as a lifestyle, I mean, I feel more connected.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I do share it with my friends or with my son. He'll want to sit down and have some sips. He's not fully into it, but he does a little bit. And so I just, as a lifestyle, I feel more connected. More connected. I would even go as far as taking more of a materialist, philosophical materialist perspective, and say I feel more connected to the universe.
Mm.
There's a connection there, and and then on the other hand, of course, for reading, for mental boost when I'm feeling down or low level of energy, when it comes time to hit the books or to teach,
Right.
so a combination of both. Plus, it helps with exercising. I think I've drank it before and done some really good workouts.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
that
I'm very intrigued by what you're saying right now because, as you guys know already, I was living in Argentina for 3 years, and I would say after the first year of living there and meeting, I don't know, potentially hundreds of people who were drinking mate, I would say there was only maybe five people out of those hundreds that really spoke about mate like you're speaking about mate. For them, it was more they'd just been drinking it their entire lives, and it was just good, and that was it. But it was so rare to ever find anyone in Argentina that ever spoke about the health benefits, the camaraderie benefits, the entire lifestyle. They never spoke about it on that level, and that always intrigued me. And I'm thinking, like, how come there isn't the Dave Mate of Argentina? You know, how come there's not 10 of me or 50 of me over there? Maybe there are. I just haven't met them. So I feel like, and I could be presumptuous by stating this, but I feel like there's a new wave of, clearly there's a new wave of mate drinkers, and we're taking it to another level. You know, we're taking it to a level of, you know, this is something that's more than just a tea. It is something that is really bringing the people together. And the Argentines know that. I believe that they do, just as the Brazilians do and the Paraguayans do. But I would say it's less articulated there as far as I have experienced. Right. Have you found a lot of Argentinians and Paraguayans and Brazilians speaking about mate on this level?
No, not. I mean, just my experience with talking to people is basically part of, you know, the circle of drink. I'm really, when I was living in Reno, which is the biggest city in northern Nevada, I was pretty much the only one that just, you know, drank it all the time and talked about it. I mean, I brought it to school. People were looking at me all weird, like, what is this guy doing?
What drug are you doing, man? What drug?
Right in the middle of class, you know, and you know, and then some of the individuals I did, you know, hang out with, we drank it, but they never passed that threshold to where they would want to start drinking it on a regular basis. Because I dated a girl for a while, my first year of graduate school, and she was still an undergrad, and we'd hang out, maybe go for drives, and then we'd drink it on the drive. But she never was like, well, I'm going to put some money aside. I'm going to get myself a set. Can you give me some advice, what you think? You know, because at that time, I got one from you, and it was the Vidrio.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
Yeah, it was a red outlining, and then it was ceramic or glass.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's what I was doing, but she didn't try to cross that threshold and just be like, I'm going to get into this myself. It was only when we hung out and I had it, you know, we drank it together and talked.
Right, right.
With my office mate for the first year of grad school, I shared an office with another sociology student, and he drank it when I had it. And then, but he never crossed that threshold, like, hey, I'm going to get a set, you know, where should I go? Who should I talk to? And so it's just really just been me, at least that I know where I've been, who just been this crazy mate guy.
Yeah. No, I find it interesting because I like, you know, when I first got into yerba mate, 2009, and then by 2011, when I formally begun Circle of Drink, I have to admit at the time I was die-hard traditional yerba mate, only the gourd, only the bombisha, and for years I would only promote that. I would say this is the only way to drink it, this, and you know, I would look at Guayaquil, what they were doing and talking about the French press and talking about the loose leaf, and I would just like kind of just like be like, oh, I don't know about that, I have to admit. But then I started getting, you know, once I started to get more involved and develop Circle of Drink, I started to get all these calls from people. I would say adults. They were adults, you know, probably past 40 in that range, and they would say, "Listen," and they told me very bluntly. They said, "Dave, I don't want to have anything to do with the gourd. I don't want to have anything to do with the bombisha. I just want to drink yerba mate. Just how do I drink yerba mate? Just tell me. I don't want to deal with the tradition. I don't care about that." They told me very bluntly, and at first I was taken aback. I was like, well, you know, whoa, slow down a little bit. But then after a few months of just considering that, I said, you know what? They're right. They're absolutely right. Why hinder the development of yerba mate and limit it to the gourd and limit it to the bombisha? Even though I love drinking it out of this method, I do see a new trend forming where people are just saying, I just want to drink mate for the health benefits. How do I drink it? How do I get it into my system? And, you know, that's when I got into really talking about the French press method, teapot method, and so on and so forth. And I feel like that's one of the best, in my opinion, segues to really transcend the barriers from the die-hard traditionalists, such as we are, to a large degree, to the you know, the new Matero, the new mate drinker who wants to get the benefits of this herb, but doesn't necessarily want to, you know, fumble around with the gourd and the bambisha and all the technical connoisseur aspects of it. What do you think about that?
I mean, I've had talks like that where I told people that it doesn't, if they want to drink it, it doesn't have to be so traditional, that they can do it in the French press or with tea bags. Some of them, I think I even recommended just getting a box of tea bags and starting it out first that way, and build up, because I mean, that's how I started. But then, you know, then at the end, you know, I do the traditional method, and then they ask me my opinion. So how do you like it? I prefer, you know, the traditional method, you know, with a, I mean, currently I haven't had a chance to fix my calabash gourd, or I'd be using it.
Oh, it broke on you, eh? Which one did you have?
Yeah. What's that?
Which gourd did you have? Which calabash?
I got it. I got through Guayaquil just because it was quick and inexpensive, because I took a major income hit.
Right.
And since I moved down here from where I was living at, so I just had to go, you know, just do that. And then it has some really small cracks in it. I just noticed. I haven't had a chance to fix it, but I found this little thing at a store in Reno that we call
you want to pull it up, or
yeah,
yeah. Oh, nice. That's ceramic.
Yeah, I believe so. I found this at a store we call a World Market.
Okay.
And I think it's traditionally like a Chinese teacup.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only $2, so it just I use it right now in between, you know, with the gourd drying out, and then on top of that, the Vidrio, the glass broke. I was drinking it one day doing some work, you know, on the computer or reading, and then I saw this puddle of water, and then I was like, oh no, and then my heart broke in two, and I was like, you've been with me so long.
Oh man, you should have called me up, man. I would have replaced it. We discontinue them at this point.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, do they have a lifetime guarantee?
Oh yeah, man. Any gourd from Circle of Drink, lifetime guarantee. Any gourd. Yeah.
Well, I did post some pictures on the forum, so if you wanted to take a look back, they're there.
We'll get one for you. Don't worry. We'll bring one back just for you.
I appreciate that. But yeah, my heart broke, and I said I took pictures because something, I don't know what happened. I noticed a crack in the glass, and then down at the bottom, it cracked more and just started chipping and coming straight out the bottom.
Started ripping apart your heart with every little crack.
I had that but this is a bambisha I had come with it as a set when I first stored it.
This is like a katana, no?
Yeah, it's a katana.
Nice.
So I love the katana. You know, that's always been, you know, my favorite type of bambisha, and since I had the calabash, I moved back towards that, and because I like the smell, I like the natural taste. And I did have I've had actually 3 types from you.
Yeah.
Over like the last few years. I think the first one was a wooden gourd, and then it cracked because of carrying it for the first time. Then I got a new one, and it worked.
Nice.
We gave that to my girlfriend to get her into it some time back, and then from there I moved to the Vidrio, and that one was just my partner. I mean, took it every
partner in crime.
That's right. And then that finally died, I want to say last year, and
well, you had it for like 3 years then.
Yeah, last year in December. And then I bet you even in my filing cabinet, I might even still have the original receipt.
Nice. Save it.
And then after that, that's when, after it broke, I went and ordered the one from Guayaquil, just simply because the cost benefit, and
of course,
a hit in income. But you know, once I'm back working full time, because teaching doesn't pay very much.
Right.
It's part-time teaching.
You guys should be getting paid the most, man, as teachers. Teachers should be getting paid the most, you know? You guys are the educators of the population.
And I even shared, I shared mate with my students. Since it's all done online, the first discussion board post is a personal biography,
Mm-hmm.
so, or an introduction. So I said at the end, I'm a very big fan of yerba mate from, South America. I drink it all the time, and madly in love with it almost. Yeah. So shared it that way with them.
So where do you see mate, the direction of it, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years in the United States? Where do you see it evolving? Do you see it as something that's going to continue to gain traction, gain momentum, or do you see it as something that's always going to remain a relatively small niche, a niche sort of tea market? What do you think?
I would see that I think I would like to speculate that it's going to increase a lot more in the next 5 years in the United States, but in various ways. I don't know. I wouldn't say one way of drinking it is going to supersede the others, but it's going to be maybe all of them combined, which will. Because I see, because over at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, it's being brought out on the shelves some more.
Right.
I've noticed. I don't know if you guys have Rayleigh's, which is a supermarket over there. We have Rayleigh's here. That's even in the tea section now, and tea bags, and even loose tea. So that's something I haven't seen in a normal, grocery market. And I've yet to see it in Walmart. But so I think, if like he mixes those drinks like Rebel Berry and Enlightened Mint and those.
I'm sorry, Jason, you broke up a bit. You were talking about Guayaquil?
Yeah, I see a lot of their products being on the shelf more.
The glass bottle products.
Yeah, the glass bottle.
You consider that yerba mate?
Not really. I mean, my son likes them, so if we walk through that, I will prefer the traditional stuff that's unsweetened, because it's more close to the traditional way, at least in the taste. He likes the Rebel Berry and the Enlightened Mint, and I see that as expanding it more, at least creating more awareness. And then I was seeing my father is really involved in cycling, does a lot of racing and everything, and he told me that Guayaquil is now starting to sponsor some bicycle races.
Oh yeah, they've been doing that, sponsoring athletes for a while now.
Oh, okay. See, he just told me about the cycling part, and I think that's another incredible way to expand
of course,
everyone's awareness of it, and at least on that end, it would be more health benefit, because for the athletes.
Of course.
So yeah, I think overall it's going to expand a lot more in 5 years, not by one particular method, but a lot of products and methods in general.
Right. And as someone that knows about, as before and earlier in the conversation, you compared the benefits of yerba mate to some of the disadvantages of coffee. As someone that knows that, why do you think that yerba mate never was able to get to the level of coffee or traditional green tea? Do you think that it was positioned improperly? Because yerba mate has been in the United States for over 100 years now.
Right.
It still has never gained any serious significant traction.
I would have to say maybe taking a historical perspective or historical sociological perspective is that the market, there's probably no real market here originally through original capitalist development. I mean, capitalist development really took on and started developing right after the Civil War, because they had to push the slave system out of the way, push the slave owners out of power in order for, basically, even though it was an uneven development, but one country for capitalist development. And since it's not grown here naturally, that's another reason I think it didn't pick up. Now, if you look at capitalist development, let's say in Argentina, it was already growing there. It was, being drunk by the Indians and everything when the Spanish, took over and pushed them off their ancestral homeland and did all that. It became, they saw a market for it.
Yeah.
Just like originally in the South, they saw a market for cotton. And that was originally, grown there. And then just like down there, you had mate originally grown down there. So so it already had the roots for a market and the expansion of the market through capitalist development. And then, and that's why I think maybe it didn't pick up here because basically down there, you can just go out into the rainforest and find it?
Yeah, more or less, between certain regions. Yeah, for sure. Like it grows naturally in about it's indigenous to about 3 or 4 different countries in Argentina, but it has naturalized in other places where it is found growing.
Right. So, and then that's just something we didn't have up here up north. So if you want to take something more naturally that grew here, then it would make it easier to start mass producing it for the big market and then to the international market.
And I think Coca-Cola, a lot of people aren't aware, but Coca-Cola has quietly been involved with yerba mate for a while now, for several years, and they actually acquired, I think it's one of the largest, if not the largest, mate cocido, which is mate tea bags, in southern Brazil, called Mate Leal. I think they purchased that in 2011, and that company has been around for a while. I think since the 60s, and then not too shortly after that, they actually created another brand of mate. I think out of Uruguay called what was it called? I did a review on it years ago, but I since took it down because I wanted to re-review it. I forgot the name of it. Oh, it was called La Vuelta. La Vuelta. So from what I hear from my sources in South America, Coca-Cola has been using their own distribution system to funnel around their own brands of mate now around South America. But then if you look online, they're very quiet about it. They haven't really spoken about it. But if you delve a little deeper and you look into some of the patents that Coca-Cola has been filing, which are open to the public, you'll see that they're actually creating formulas, let's call them formulas, with yerba mate as ingredients in these formulas. So I think Coca-Cola quietly has been doing a lot of work and a lot of research on the development of mate and the future of it. So when I start to study Coca-Cola and see, their footprints in yerba mate, I said, wow, they actually are recognizing the power of this herb, because they're acquiring companies, they're distributing yerba mate, they're talking about growing yerba mate in other parts of the regions, and who knows? Coca-Cola might be the catalyst of bringing yerba mate on a large scale to the United States. Though, of course, Guayaquil's done a great job. They're doing a great job, I think. All due respect to Guayaquil, for really stepping forward these past several years. So I do think personally, mate has a good future. I was reading some books, articles really, in early 1900s. They were actually trying to set up, believe it or not, yerba mate stations inside of hospitals to be used as recuperative methods for certain patients. Yeah, it never worked. It never actually got, it never went through. But, the fact that they were thinking on that level 100 years ago, I find very interesting.
Right. No, that is very fascinating about Coca-Cola and expanding the market. Because I even remember reading some time back that Syria, before the Civil War started, that it was the biggest importer of mate from Argentina.
Biggest. I think they're the largest importer in the world of any country.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So at one time, I just thought it was.
Definitely Argentina. Yeah, from
Mhm.
Argentina.
Yeah.
Big time over there. I always find it almost ironic, though, to see the development of mate where, you know, an herb that's such a powerful herb, peaceful herb, brings people together, has been involved with immense hardship and, you know, slavery. You know, like, think about the Guarani. You know, mate was their drink, it still is. And then the Spaniards came in, and the Portuguese came in, and they took over, and they basically put them into slavery, and they made millions upon millions of dollars off of yerba mate. And then those misiones, you know, churches essentially got shut down, and then the industry fell apart. And then the Paraguayan War, you know, Paraguay got decimated. I think something like, I once read 80 to 90% of the male population was killed during that war. I don't know if that's true.
I think I read something similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have, you know, the turn of the 20th century. We have Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay kind of coming together as the consortium of yerba mate producers. And then it makes you kind of wonder, why have they had such a lock on the yerba mate market, these three countries, when I know for a fact that yerba mate could grow outside of those regions?
Right.
But why hasn't it happened yet? You know, how come no other country has grown it yet? I've always found that to be very curious to me. Why? Maybe because it's just so unknown at this point. You know, well, what do you think about that? Why hasn't anybody said, let me just grow, you know, 5,000 acres of yerba mate somewhere? You know, why hasn't that happened?
See, yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if I would have an answer for it, but I mean, maybe it's quite possible these three countries, you know, on the one hand, have such a monopoly on the production of it, just like oil companies. They have a major, you know, monopoly on it, you know, OPEC, you know, and this is why there's such, you know, trouble in Venezuela, because when they try to nationalize it and use those petrodollars to increase the standard of living for all their people and build them new houses, which they've been, you know, slowly working on and improving on. Maybe it's just like that. You know, you have this monopoly. Plus, I mean, a lot of these global corporations, you know, will set up, you know, global institutions like the World Trade Organization and NAFTA and so on and so forth, in order to, you know, have more corporate control than government control over, you know, international markets. So maybe that has to do with it. I mean, certainly, you know, if you did grow, you know, start mass producing mate here in the United States on big plantations and you know, for the domestic and international market, you started gaining larger percentages of the overall global market. Yes. They might want to step in and just be like, you know, more of a, not so much because of capitalist competition, but also just domination and control of, you know, a certain market.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know too much about agricultural science, and which would be the best climate in the United States to create a mate plantation.
Right. And I recently heard, I forgot the actual farm that's doing it, but right now in the United States, we have people who are actually growing Camellia sinensis, traditional tea. They're growing it indoors, hydroponically.
Wow. Okay.
Indoors, successfully. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, what's to stop that from happening with yerba mate? You know, if they could grow Camellia sinensis indoors, I believe that they could grow yerba mate indoors. I once spoke to a scientist through one of my friends through Circleofdrink, who lives in Brazil, who introduced me to a scientist at a prestigious university in southern Brazil. And I consulted with him briefly about this. And I found it a little interesting because he told me, you know, he gave me some guidelines on, you know, the regions of where mate could grow. And I just used some examples of different countries. I said, okay, well, this country has this average humidity. This this country has this elevation above sea level. Do you think mate could grow here theoretically? And he said yes, but he said he was mostly concerned with the legalities of it. And I found that almost interesting because he was speaking to me in a way where he was almost kind of saying, like, don't step on our territory. You know, don't take our plant and grow it somewhere else. Those were the kind of undertones I was getting from this professor of botany and agriculture in a prestigious university in southern Brazil. And I was a little bit like, whoa, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, well, nobody has a patent on a plant that grows wild. That's illegal. Nobody could do that.
Not yet.
Except, you know, Monsanto was some, you know, exception, but they developed their own plants. It was a whole nother conversation. But I really don't see any legal issues. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, of any country in particular preventing another country from growing a plant that grows wild.
Right.
So I think, in my opinion, that one of the major things that's going to really boost the yerba mate market globally is going to be other countries stepping up and saying, okay, let's give this a go. Let's grow, you know, a test crop of yerba mate, and let's grow mate in Colombia. Let's grow mate in the Caribbean. Let's grow mate in Florida. I'm sure it'll probably grow in Florida. Let's grow mate in Louisiana, parts of, you know, Arizona. Who knows? So I think that we're going to start to see those sort of developments over the next decade and a half. You know, I welcome that. I think that's great. I think that right now, South American local consumers in some degree are suffering because as the global demand of mate increases, the farmers are saying, okay, well, the global demand is increasing. So with supply and demand, the laws of supply and demand, we're going to increase the price of yerba mate on a global level, and we're also going to increase the price and the local level for the locals. And the locals economy is not on par with the, you know, economies in, say, United States, Europe. So for them to see the price of mate increase significantly over the past 2 to 4 years, I look at that as a hazard for the mate market. When you start to ostracize the locals and increase the price significantly for the locals at the benefit of expanding the yerba mate industry outside of the local market. So I get feedback from people who I know in Brazil and Paraguay and Argentina. They're saying, wow, you know, I can't even afford the amount of mate that I used to buy 3-4 years ago. Now I can only buy 1 kilo instead of buying 4 kilos. And when I hear that, that hurts me because I don't want that to happen. But at the same time, I do want to expand the yerba mate market. I do want to see more exportation. I believe that Argentina just had their best year ever. I don't remember the exact figure, but it was something like 700,000 kilos or 700,000 tons, sorry, of mate that they exported. I think last year or the year before, which was a record-breaking year for them. So I think that there needs to be some sort of like consortium, but maybe that would hurt it more. I don't know. I don't want to say consortium, but some sort of understanding that yerba mate has to leave the southern cone. It can't just stay contained in the southern cone anymore.
Right.
You know, that's what I feel, at least.
No, I mean, I can agree with that. I mean, see, I don't know a lot of, I haven't read really any information on how much mate is produced in these countries, how much is exported versus domestic consumption, you know, from more of a, you know, like a political economic standpoint. But see, I wonder if yerba mate is what they consider, you know, elastic, has elasticity like coffee. Because I mean, one of the things is I always heard from professors in grad school that even if the global prices of coffee did go down, doesn't mean you're going to ultimately go to Starbucks and buy 2 latte grandes instead of 1, or 2 more pounds.
Right.
Instead of 1. And so I wonder if that's, you know, the way with mate, because if all the prices went down, are we really going to be, you know, buying 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds at a time, drinking through it, you know? So that's one thing that would come to mind. I mean, I always like to buy it in bulk because I tend to drink it in bulk. And but you know, but that individuals, you'd have to have a lot of individuals who would actually go buy it in bulk, right. And I'm not sure, because when you look at it, you have three major actors when it comes to, the way the market works. You always have some form of government intervention or non-intervention regulating prices and such. You have corporations who are heavily involved in the market, depending on their size and how much control or percentage of control they have of the market. And then you have your individual, actors that are involved too. Do they go out and buy a large amount of a product to where, they need to produce more, so on and so forth. So I just think I really don't know how elastic it is. Coffee, is elastic, because I wouldn't go to Starbucks if they were selling latte grandes for 50 cents. I couldn't stomach two, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people may or may not increase their coffee consumption, even if the global prices did go down. So,
so on a lighter note, let me ask you a few questions about spirituality. Do you think that mate in any way has had any sort of ethereal effect on you in terms of maybe increasing your relationships with people, or even personal development in terms of, has it made you a kinder person? Has it made you more open-hearted? And I know these questions are kind of like nebulous in nature, but if you could shed any light on that, that'd be great, because I think it's an important topic. I think that a lot of people like to hear these things about yerba mate.
Honestly, I'm not, a religious.
Of course. And no religion. I'm not.
Well, I'm just saying in general, I'm not really a religious person. I'm not really a spiritual person. I believe the possibility in something being out there, but I also have a minor in philosophy, so we spend a lot of time, studying the philosophical concepts of God and all that. But I won't get into that. But for me, at least, when it clears my mind and expands my consciousness, it allows me to think, and analyze people's actions and behaviors more. In sociology, usually for micro level interaction, they refer to it as the dramaturgical analysis. It was developed by Irving Goffman, in which he basically applied the analogy or the metaphor, the theatrical stage, to social life.
Right.
So, drinking mate and taking that perspective, it allows me to analyze deeper with people's behaviors and actions. And no matter where we're at, whatever the social context is, it's always a reciprocal process in social interaction. It's our actions in a reaction to whatever happens. So I think it just allows me to be more understanding with other individuals at times. Right. At times I feel closer to certain individuals, as I was saying earlier, for the philosophical concept of materialism, I feel a deeper connection with all forms of life, or everything in the universe. That I don't want to sound like I'm a big Star Wars fan, like there's some force, but I believe there's a materialist connection of everything that exists in the universe that binds us together, but not like the force, but more of a, I don't know. And I wouldn't say I'm like Spinoza or anything in any of that sense, but I think it allows me to feel closer to individuals, and closer to things in the universe, because of that deep connection, whatever binds us together.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Would you attribute those benefits, those ability to connect to others, as more of a physiological and psychological response to the actual compounds that are built into mate, or would you say that it's something beyond that and that?
I'd say both, a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is for sure a physiological effect of, from drinking mate and how it affects us physically and mentally. Because ultimately, we need it to try to have some sort of coexistence as an individual between our mind and body, because we might feel good mentally, but feel pretty bad physically. So, we have that. And I think on top of that, I think it's also, you can call it I guess a philosophical belief in an ideology, because all that just means is a set of beliefs in how the world should be. I think maybe humanity should feel more closer to each other rather than divided, So I don't know. I'd say, just a combination of both.
Right. How do you see the world right now? Just an open-ended question. How do you feel and see the world right now in this current state?
Well, there's many answers to that question.
Right. So whatever comes to you.
With the way the stock market's behaving, and doing some research on the capitalist business cycle, because it operates like a roller coaster. I'm afraid that there's going to be, another recession.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it might hit harder than the one we had in 2007, 2008, which won't be good at all.
Right.
So economically, I don't think there's a good outlook that way. As far as, individual.
What about humanity?
What's that?
What about humanity? The humanity. What's going on with humanity right now on a global scale? Would you feel like we're becoming closer as a species, as humans, or are we kind of separating more and saying, well, you're this way, you're this color, you're this nationality, and that's who you are, and this is who I am? How do you feel humanity is taking shape right now?
Unfortunately, I see at least a large portion of the United States. I'm not going to, estimate to what percentage of the population, but I see a good amount of people shifting to the right in their ideology, their political outlook. I'm not a big fan of Trump, but don't get me wrong, I'm not a liberal either, so I'm not going to go jump on board in saying and defend Hillary or Bernie Sanders, but I see a shift to the right, little bit, way too much to the far right in some cases, and that bothers me because nationalism is the direct opposite of solidarity. And so without solidarity, it can't bring us together as humanity. So I see that as, in particular with the United States, as places in the world. I see people coming together more to wanting to change their social and political conditions. And I think a lot of times it has to do with economic crises, because when things get harder for the average working person and they can't even make it to the end of the month with their monthly income, that changes the way they view the world, because how can I work so hard day in and day out and I can't even make it to the end of the month like I did, a year ago, 2 years ago, a decade ago. So I see in various countries, as the economy gets worse, bringing more people together to try to figure out a way in which they can do things differently than the way things have been going. And you see this with a lot of demonstrations. Greece has had a number of riots, in the last 5 or 6 years. They've had a lot of demonstrations, because austerity, the measures of austerity that they're facing, is just crushing the people, and it hasn't bettered the economy whatsoever.
Right.
So I think in general, think people are coming together more, trying to organize more in such a way to figure out in general how to do things differently that benefits everybody rather than, a rich minority or a minority of people in power. I'm hoping things will eventually go more like Star Trek, where we have a much better society, and and everybody is able to figure out what they want and have the means to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I just want to be a space explorer. That would be.
Link up with Elon Musk.
What's that?
Link up with Elon Musk, SpaceX. He's building a rocket to leave and go to start the first colony on Mars.
That's right, and have yerba mate as our main staple of survival.
Right. So I kind of want to extend upon what you were saying, but first let me just interject ourselves. And if anyone's listening to this, I see that we have several viewers. Thank you for watching. If anyone wants to, at any point now, moving forward, ask any questions or jump in, then now's the time to do it, because we're probably going to be speaking just for another 10 to 15 minutes. And if anyone's listening to this, I see that we have several viewers. You hear that double, that relay? If anyone wants to, at any point now, moving forward, ask any questions or jump in. I'm hearing my echo. I hope you guys aren't hearing it. If anyone wants to jump in, ask questions, this is the time to do it, or type into the chat section, and we'll respond. And I'm just going to move forward real quickly and kind of respond to what Jason said. I think, and call me corny, call me whatever, but I think that mate could play a part simply in helping to bring people together. I feel like to answer my question that I presented to you, I would say I feel like we're in an interesting period right now, just to generalize in terms of people, especially here in the United States. I feel like at the same time, people are getting closer. People are bonding on a level that's never been seen before, but also at the same time, we're seeing a lot of niche groups coming to, separating and saying, okay, well, this is my ideology, that's your ideology, I want nothing to do with you. And there's a lot of tension, I feel, right now in the United States. A lot of it has to do with race. A lot of it is fueled by political decisions, political promotions from different people. And I feel like we're living in an interesting time when, as I said before, we're coming together, but we're also separating. And that's why, personally, one of the reasons why I really love yerba mate, because when I first was experiencing the yerba mate, as someone from an entirely different country, going to another country and immediately being invited, immediately having a group of people, strangers, say, come, sit down, share this, have some of my food. This is my name. What is your name? Be my friend. I was totally just taken aback, and that really changed my life. To see these Argentinians be so open and be so embracing. I never experienced anything like that in my life. A little bit briefly in California, but definitely not in New York. I feel like if we could expand this idea of the circle, what I now call the circle, where people are coming together and not necessarily just drinking yerba mate. Mate could be just a placeholder. It could be anything. But this whole concept of a circle of people coming together, like the Native Americans did, and I'm sure every culture has always done, come together and not only invite people that look like you and speak like you and talk like you, but invite people of other nationalities, of other ethnicities, and look at them simply as equals and say, hey, how you doing? Share this tea with me. Let's talk about your life. Let's talk about my life. Let's talk about ideas. I really think, not to oversimplify, but I really think that is one of the solutions, really, to really bring people together. Imagine nations acted with those sort of behaviors. Imagine, diverse people from different neighborhoods came together. Yes, we're human. Yes, I look different than you, and maybe I have more or less money than you, or maybe I have this job and you have that title, but who cares? Let's just come together and share something. And I think that mate could be a great excuse for that coming together. And that's really why I promote it so hard. More so than anything else, I really believe that mate could help bring people together beyond race, beyond ethnicity, beyond all these other delineations between people, which are in many ways socially manufactured. So that's why I'm always going to promote mate. That's why I like to see what's happening with Circle of Drink, the community, where people from over 35 countries are interacting every single day. Outside of that community, I've met over people from over 100 countries talking about mate. So that's why I'm behind yerba mate, really, to bring people together. And just to hear you speak about it like how you did today, Jason, is an honor to get your perspective, not only on mate, but on the world, and your relationship with the world and your relationship with mate has been inspiring. So I thank you so much for coming on to the first show, the Mate Studio. I hope to do this more. We had a lot of viewers today. At any given time, we had about 10 viewers, so that's great. This video was recorded, so I'm sure that it'll be exposed to thousands of people. So it's been an honor, Jason. Thank you so much. If you have any parting words for the community, let us know.
Well, first I would like to say Salud.
Salud.
And keep drinking mate, keep, expanding your mind, keep learning. We're all on not only a physical journey, but an intellectual journey, and I believe that quite a few of us have more in common than we have differences. I think that by getting to know each other, at least culturally, if you want to expand it to the next level beyond the individual, is that I think many cultures have many similarities, more so than we typically are grow up to believe. And there's nothing wrong with cultural diffusion. And that just simply, I would define that, as a sociologist or a teacher, that it's the appreciation and admiration of other cultural practices. And one way to learn, another culture is to learn their language. Because by learning their language, also you can learn how they think. Because if language shapes thought, then the more language, the more vocabulary you have can increase the way you think and understand how other people, live, in that we have more in common than we have differences. So,
salute to that, man. Well said.
Yeah, thank you.
Jason, thank you so much, man. It's been an honor. We're going to keep these series going, probably like once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. And everybody out there watching this, keep on drinking mate, keep on sharing it, and try to do your positive part, whatever that means to you in the world. And I hope to see you guys in the circle. Find us on Facebook. Just type in Circle of Drink. We have communities on Facebook. Obviously, we have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to us there. And feel free to shoot us an email or comment in this video below, and we'll get back to you. All right, Jason. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you again, Jason.
Yeah. Take care, man.
Thank you. Have a good one.